Hello, I'm out with an update. Update is, and I expect this is going to come out jumbled. I'm really sorry about that in advance. I'm just back from my latest trip. I am on travel quarantine. I have a COVID test on Monday. Yes, I am walking around and I'm not supposed to do that, but it is raining out. I very, very think that it's unlikely that I'm going to run across somebody. I also am as close to 100% sure I'm not sick as could possibly be, because pretty sure I had it in March. And yes, there are people that have gotten it twice. I think there's 38 people in the whole world. So my odds, my luck isn't that good that I would catch it twice. It's possible though. So I'm avoiding people, that's for sure. So yes, I went on the trip. And it was my average short 4-day trip. And I had planned it as sort of like an R&R trip. The plan was day of travel, day of doing stuff, day of not doing anything, and another day of travel. And more or less, that's what I did. Yes, I have pictures for Instagram. Yes, they will definitely be going up soon. Maybe tonight, probably tomorrow. But what I did was I went to Universal Studios in Florida. And again, the point was that now that we're in a pandemic, it's supposed to be dead. That was not my experience. I've never been before because I don't like roller coasters. That's not the place to go if you don't like roller coasters. All they have is roller coasters. I'm glad I did it, so I can say for sure, from experience, yeah, not the place for me. And I've talked to cab drivers or Uber or Lyft or whatever the heck. That's basically all I talked to in the entire trip I was gone. Because again, I don't have social anxiety. I have avoidant personality disorder. And so I can't have ongoing relationships with people, really. Incredibly rare instances, and I do a damn good job of trying to shoot myself in the foot with them. With these friendships that are mostly off rather than mostly on, and fewer than a handful. Anyway, but I can talk to strangers. So I was talking to, these are cab drivers trying to make a tip and trying to make a decent rating so that they can make more money. So they're chatty. Now, a hairdresser who's chatty would kill me because it's like a minimum of half an hour. But a 5-minute cab ride, I can do it. So I was explaining to them what my experience was, which was massive crowds. The company did a good job of trying to keep the spread down. But Florida just changed its laws where basically there's no restriction, my understanding, on things like restaurants and bars and stuff. It's up to the individual company. And so they're not going to be stupid and tell people they can't come. So it was very packed. Also, the park itself, I was impressed at how much they compressed into such a small area. It was very tight. And there were literally rides over rides. Like the roller coasters went over other rides. It was crazy. And it was also, on a lot of parks I've been to, if you've been to Disney, they're sort of like a spoke design. So if you want to get out of an area, you can always go back to the middle. That's not how this place was. I mean, I don't know, maybe wasn't there long enough, but it seemed like just a giant snake. And if you wanted to get from one side to the other, you had to go through the entire thing. And it just kept changing and changing and changing, which was really interesting. I mean, theming, unbelievable. The theming was even stronger than Disney. It was wild. It was also very crowded, very tight, very claustrophobic. I went on 3 rides that were sort of like the low-keyest and not the most popular. I went on one popular ride. The one popular ride I went on was, okay, so there's 2 parks in Universal. There is a Harry Potter train that connects them, and I went on that train, and it was nearly 2 hours in line, and everything was an hour and a half to 2+ hours wait to do everything. This is what I'm saying. It's up to regular capacity. In other words, super crowded. I was not prepared for that. I think I did a good job of not having a panic attack. I was super stressed out by the people that were totally flaunting the rules. You know, there are different personality disorders. Among them, obsessive compulsive is like, you follow the rules. When you have a personality disorder, basically the chances are that you're going to have many different variations and traits of other personality disorders, because these are normal traits that everybody has. It's just they're extreme. Every once in a while I get a wicked flare-up of the these are the rules thing. And seeing people walking around, bumping into other people, basically eating the entire time, because if you're eating you don't have to wear a mask. It was so stressful to me. So when I went, again, the original plan was travel down the first day, relax, go to the park the second day, hang out at the hotel and just decompress because I've been working so much the third day, travel back the fourth. But they opened up haunted houses, which, again, these are, well, I mean, one of the rules I make for myself is to try to do something quote-unquote scary. To me, I mean, it's scary enough to do these trips. And usually it's going to a country where I don't speak the language and trying to navigate it. That's pretty damn scary. So I'm trying to manufacture it, doing trips in the United States. Wait till you see the next one and what I'm going to do. That's all I have to say about that. Because that's what I'm doing the rest of this weekend while I'm in quarantine, is planning the next trip. Anyway, so I went to the haunted houses, and maybe I'm remarkably jaded. I thought they were hilarious. I just was like laughing. I thought they were charming. Again, detail incredible, but I wasn't horrified by them, and I wasn't scared even, you know. Because they have barriers, because of course there's a pandemic going on, so they don't actually have people to jump out at you, which is what they normally do. They are behind glass walls, so you can see when they're coming, because, oh, there's a glass wall, that means you're going to be jumped out at. There's no surprise whatsoever. But when I heard that they were opening these up, I thought, I'll go on 2 days. And the first day I will do my regular plan, and the second day I will add and do haunted houses and any other kind of crap I can find. When I went to turn in, because I bought it online, and you turn in, you actually get a physical ticket. When I went to turn it in, and I was like, hey, how can I upgrade this to a 2-day? I'd like to do these haunted houses. They were like, well, there really isn't a wait for them. We recommend you don't get a second ticket just for the haunted houses. I was like, what? Kind of genius. And I owe that lady, and I think it's awesome. She did not do an upgrade and go, woo, yeah, let's get another $100 out of you. So I only did it that one day. And I'm really glad I did, because I don't think I could have put up with those type of crowds and the crowding and the stress and waiting in those massive lines. That's why I went when I went, because I heard that the lines were very short and it was really easy to get in and out and not be stuck in a line. That's not what happened. So I'm glad I only did it for one day instead of two. And then the second day, literally, I took naps and I went to the pool and I got a really gnarly sunburn because, of course, it's Florida. And the sun is much stronger than it is where I live. There's a car. Just 1 second. And then the third day, my plane was actually pushed back. So instead of hanging around in the airport, I did do another thing on the last day before my trip. And again, it was really, really short. And another distraction. And although it was really, really short, disappointing, I'm glad I did it because, again, it took away the stress of the day running around with such crowds, and then the second day thinking I was being judged and a loser by the people at the hotel for not leaving. I don't know. Hard to explain. How did my depression go with that? They have cats on their windows. You don't think you can see them. Anyway, how did I feel? I think I was far less affected by it on this trip than I was on the last trip I took. Of course, my diet was out the window, and my theory was that diet was helping. I don't know. I think that also, again, for me, having a radical change and so different is really helpful for me. Oh my goodness, I think this thing is going to crash on me. I'm sorry if it cuts off. Anyway, for me, having a big change is actually really, really helpful. It's just a way I manifest my personality disorder. If it's new enough, ooh, big puddle. I'm just going to turn around here. And no, I don't have any cats with me tonight. It's a miracle. I think they're really, really sick of being in the house because they have to be kept inside while I'm gone so that they don't get locked out accidentally. It's hard sometimes to find them. So they have to stay in while I'm gone the entire time and really hate it. So, yeah. The avoidance was good. The depression, I thought, was better than the last time around. I was so low that I didn't even realize with my last trip that I was low. It wasn't until I came back that I was really like, wow, I should have, should is a terrible word. We've been over this. I think I have an entire video, about how terrible it is to judge somebody else or to judge yourself using that word should, because it's based on somebody other than the individual's opinion about how they should live their life. But considering it really was, the trip I did before really was a once in a lifetime type, not because it was what I was doing, but because, again, the crowds are so low. It was stunning. It was great. I was hoping to recreate that tonight, this week, whatever. That didn't happen. And yet, still, it was okay. I kept noticing, once I put it up on Instagram, you'll see. Usually I take a zillion pictures. I took pictures, but I didn't take nearly as many as I normally would or what I thought I would. But again, I was very charmed by experiences that I had. Whereas the trip before I wasn't at all. So I don't know if the depression is better, if the diet was helping, which of course got blown out when I was on vacation, but I'm already back on it. Or if it was just because it was so new that I have never done any of this stuff before and it was the first time I was seeing these things. I mean, when you're doing an adaptive coping mechanism, you don't always plan it out. You don't always know exactly what's happening or why. It just works. And then you repeat it, and then you've got to watch out if it's maladaptive, meaning, yes, you get the initial hit of distraction from either depression or anxiety or whatever, but it comes with some bad side effects. I was saying to somebody that I was afraid I was going to spend the entire quarantine online shopping, and the reaction was, well, what's wrong with that? And I didn't want to really get into it. What's wrong with that is, wasting money, definitely is a maladaptive coping mechanism, and it's unsustainable. So, yeah, no. So there's all that. And then, additionally, which, I don't know, I talk about a lot of things on this YouTube channel that are extremely personal, and maybe I shouldn't. But, anyway, because again, my standard is, if it's going to trigger avoidant personality disorder, and if how I get through it is something that somebody might learn from and be able to make their own life better, then suck it up and talk about it. The other thing that's really annoying, it's really starting to rain again, or maybe it's just windy and I'm going under a tree. Always had an impression of myself that I was healthy, and basically since my mother died, that seems to have gone out the window. So maybe the stress of taking care of other people gave me sort of an adrenaline rush so I could push stuff off, or maybe I just never noticed. But I did have some oddball symptoms, and went to the doctor. And, well, first I called the doctor and they were like, oh, that's not good. And then I went to the doctor and this was before I went on vacation, they did the first round of tests, and the first round of tests, which were basic for infection, came back negative. And so I have my second round of tests. I think it's a week from Tuesday. It might be next Tuesday, or it's a week from Tuesday. I don't know. I'm going to have to look at the calendar. But I've been told that I should prepare myself to at least have a biopsy and maybe have another removal. Which I had one last year, and it went really well. Physically, it was not anywhere near as big a deal as I was afraid of. So I'm not really worried about if I need to have a surgery. What I'm worried about is the anesthesia. Because since last year and this year, my son basically blew up all of my relationship with my entire family. Except my father, who has Alzheimer's and is in a home. He was mad at me and mad at what the choices he was making with his life were, and embarrassed. And so he called all the relatives and blamed me for it and got them, quote unquote, on his side. Now, this was a trick that my mother used to do all the time. Divide and conquer. always her, it didn't matter what she was doing. She wanted people against each other, and she wanted them on her side as much as possible. And my son has really picked up on doing that. And that's what he did with my entire family. So I do have a handful of friends. I think the closest lives in North Carolina, pretty far. And relatives around, but they won't have anything to do with me because they think I mistreated my son, which is so much irony, it's not even worth talking about. And because I really, when you're an abused person, you learn to not talk about it. I talk about it here, but I don't want to slur my son to my family. I think that there's a good chance that they're going to be there for him at some point. And he's got, he's 30 years younger than me, so he's going to need him for longer than me, is the way I'm looking at it. And there's no point in me settling the score. And so I'm like, okay, you got the family, that's cool. Keep your relationship with them. I don't have a relationship with anybody in my family anymore. I don't have friends. And I'm going to have anesthesia. And the problem with that is, I was like, okay, no big deal. Back as long as I can remember, I would just get a cab and go home after some medical procedure. Well, the world has changed. And they will not let that happen because people have been taken advantage of by cab drivers and everything else. So I'm in like a major pickle. I don't know what people do. I suppose I'm going to have to find out. I would not be at all surprised if they're like, okay, well, you have to stay in the hospital overnight just so we can be sure that you don't have any effects of anesthesia when you leave. Plus, of course, I wouldn't be driving. Well, if it's just a little biopsy, I could drive. But if it's another removal of one or many organs, which is what it kind of looks like it's going toward. I mean, again, no big deal. It's not like I'm using them. Really, when it comes down to it, because that's the standards they come up with. Is it more damage for them to stay, or is it more damage for them to go? Well, if they decide these things gotta, or it, or whatever has to go, cool. Because frankly, after my experience last year, I would rather have them go and not have to do follow-up than have to follow up with doctors to monitor a situation. Because again, avoidant personality disorders. Is this thing still going? Yes, it is. So that's kind of stressful. So I might be going to surgery before the end of the month. And again, I have no idea what I'm going to do about if I have to go under anesthesia and they don't let me drive or take a cab away. I mean, it's not fair. What do people do? Well, I guess other people, I know somebody else who just had major surgery, who is like, yay, the nurses, I love the nurses. And I'm like, avoidant personality disorder, you love the nurses? You love being taken care of. That's different. Everybody manifests differently from me. It's not really a judgment per se. It's more like, which I think a lot of people think about when they hear my videos and hear what I do. They're like, that's different from me. I couldn't do that. It's way different from me. I've always been told I'm too independent. I don't accept help from people. I don't think I'm worthy of it. I don't think I deserve it. I don't think that I can pay people back, repay them for helping me in any way, shape, or form. It is damn near impossible for me to accept help from people. So, staying a night in a hotel, staying a night in a hospital. Actually, I gotta say, I love this about the quarantine thing, is that they don't come in and clean your room when you're in a hotel. So awesome. So I don't have to worry about that. And somebody clean up after me. But yeah, it's not even the being stuck in the room that's the problem. It's the nurses and being pestered over. I mean, plus, okay, so they might get the anesthesia out of my system, but then I'll probably be on painkilling drugs. I don't know how it's going to happen. I mean, I think that I'm going to have to, like, not be on the painkilling drugs long enough to get home from the hospital and be in agony. I don't know. Because, of course, the doctors, they would never think of something